Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Prime Pediatric Podcast. I am here with the wonderful and amazing Dr. Mel Krug. I am so excited to have you on today, Mel. Let me ask you a quick question. How are you doing?
I am fabulous because I'm with you, Skip.
Well, thank you. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate that. I'm really humbled that you're here. Mel, I've been watching you for a few years now, and it's been really amazing to watch you progress, have an amazing practice, pretty much have something that's absolutely brilliant. And in chiropractic, not a lot of docs use it, and it's called network. And can you do me a favor right away? Can you introduce yourself to the Prime Pediatric audience, what you do, Mel, kind of a little bit of your journey, and let's just get right into it. You cool with that?
Absolutely, Skip. And thank you so much. I'm humbled to be in your presence. You are someone that I look up to. So as Dr. Skip said, I'm Dr. Mel, and I am a network practitioner as well as a Black Diamond Club coach. I help people overcome trauma and challenges in their life in both their body, mind, their mindset, and in their business. And I should preface to the audience, I did not grow up with chiropractic care. So I did not get into chiropractic until I was about 21. I suffered a really intense rugby injury to the point, Skip, where I couldn't even sleep. I couldn't breathe. It was a really bad shoulder injury. And it wasn't until I was further into chiropractic school after some traditional models of chiropractic that I discovered network care, which absolutely blew my mind, because I was always the person who was studying the universe and physics and quantum mechanics and quantum physics for fun. And not a lot of people know this. I was a chemistry major for a little bit. And so when I discovered Donnie Epstein's work, it was as though all of the pieces in my life came together. And it was such a beautiful moment where I thought, wow, I can actually take everything I've felt passionate about and apply it to serving people and apply it to the nervous system and really help people thrive from the inside out in my own unique art and craft. So then in 2017, I opened Inspire Life Chiropractic Center, and we have been growing and booming ever since. And I practice solely network spinal care. And I run a cash office, and we have been doing really, really well, even through the last 2 years, and people's lives are thriving. So that's a little bit about me.
That doesn't surprise me at all. Just watching you doing what you do, it's all about mindset, abundance, how we're going to keep ourselves at a whole nother level and how we expand the mind, right? We talk about this a lot, and I know you've heard it too. And I heard the phrase again this last weekend at an amazing workshop called Sales Matters, where a mind once expanded never shrinks. Just like a bank account once expanded never shrinks. Okay. And it's those experiences, right? So tell us a little bit more about your journey, Mel. Now, becoming a chiro, you definitely keyed me with this crazy rugby injury you had happen. Tell me a little bit more about it. How did you jump into network spinal care? Because we're going to dive down rabbit hole too. Because in chiropractic, there's a lot of people that hear that and they're like, well, that's a bunch of bullshit. And can you just come right down that rabbit hole, walk us through that injury, and then how did you get on this journey of the technique that you become so brilliant at and one of the world's leading authorities in? How is this all come into play?
I love rabbit holes, Skip. So thank you for opening the door. I'm a rabbit hole expert, so we can go on that topic for a long time. But for your audience today, really, for me, I was, again, the skeptic. I was huge into science, like I said, chemistry, physics. And so I wanted to understand the universal concepts of the planet, of the world. And when you look at network, a lot of people will be like, what? It's kind of weird. You find YouTube videos of Donnie Epstein and there's weird stuff happening. And we have to remember that everything is energy. And that's not a woo-woo concept, right? Some of your other podcast experts I've listened to, when we think about the 5 senses of the nervous system, everything coming into our central nervous system is vibration. So just remember that if you're a chiropractor listening to this does get scientific. So in school, I was very sports chiropractic because I had suffered a really bad rugby injury, and chiropractic is what helped me get back on the field. I was playing in France, I was playing in Wales, I was playing in Canada. I was an all-American athlete for quite a long time. And so sports really mattered to me, and showing up on the field and being able to perform. And so I was experiencing chiropractic, and it was okay, right? The chiropractors at the time never talked about, the innate intelligence or the central nervous system or vitality. It was very, hey, do all this stuff and then on your way, very sports focused. Not that there's anything wrong with that. However, when I was in school, I remember sitting in the cafeteria And my friend Shannon, Dr. Shannon, said, "What technique do you do, Mel?" And I said, "Well, I just, I do motion palpation, and I can cavitate every joint in your spine and blast through cervical, CT junction, right?" And she's like, "Well, I do network." And I said, "What the hell is that?" And so she said, "Well, come experience it tomorrow." So I show up at school. I'm a student, so I'm very like into everything, right? I want to learn everything. And I lay down and I get my first network entrainment. And I felt good. And I was, got the wave going in my spine, which anyone who knows network, the somatorespiratory wave is the very thing we're looking for in the initial phases of care. And then the next day, Skip, you talk about epiphany right before we got on here. My whole life changed. I was sitting in PNS class, and I remember experiencing excruciating pain in my right ovary. And I don't know how much I've shared this in the profession, but I ended up in the ER from that pain. They did an internal ultrasound, nothing. They found absolutely nothing wrong. And I looked at my friend Shannon, and all of a sudden I started having these epiphanies of the trauma I had gone through, of the suppression of symptoms that I experienced as a teenager and dealing with menstrual cycle dysfunction and all these things that it's basically like the universe said, "This is your time and this is your wake-up call." And we talk about expansion of consciousness and expansion of my being. And it was that moment where pain became an invitation to change, which is a very, very big tenet in network, where pain does not have to be bad. Symptoms are not bad. And even in chiropractic, it's a wake-up call. And so from that moment on, I dedicated myself to learning the craft, to learning the art, to becoming the president of the Network Spinal Club at Northwestern, which is not a very philosophical school, if you're familiar with Northwestern. And it really changed my life. It changed my family's life. My body continued to heal, and I experienced levels of vitality in both my body and my mind and my consciousness, and the ability to tap into these gifts that I never thought was possible. So from that point on, I just became obsessed, quite frankly, in learning it for kids and things like that. So, as a skeptic, the experience in and of itself really shifted my mindset around it and my perception around what is the beautiful art of network spinal care.
I like that you took like a 30,000 foot view of it, right? Because you can get super granular with network. You can try to understand it, but you have to experience it, right? It's just like experiencing chiropractic in general. It's the magnitude of what the adjustment is, right? The adjustment's the vehicle. Everything else around that is the most important aspect of it. The adjustment, whether it's network, whether it's manual adjusting, whether it's with an instrument, that's just a vehicle. That's just a vehicle. Everything else unlocks the potential of the body, unlocks the energy, unlocks the cellular communication that basically forms that amazing synergistic harmony that allows us to heal, right? So Mel, I know that you're massive into mindset, and your mindset stuff that you talk about is pretty phenomenal. And I think it's incredibly important for doctors, especially in the pediatric world, to understand the mindset of being extremely successful in practice, which is what makes you a successful coach. But where that all stems from, because it also comes back immediately into the thoughts aspect of our spinal communication journey, right? So can you elaborate a little bit about mindset, Dr. Mel, and how you become an absolute master and completely brilliant at this?
Absolutely. What I see in a lot of my clients is this desire to change their habits and practice, for example. And we have to remember the habitual motion is further down the chain when it comes to the levels of consciousness. And Dave Meltzer talks a lot about this, which I know you know Dave Meltzer. But in order to shift our mindset and our thoughts, we have to go into almost a layer deeper, which is really, what is it that you believe and what is it that you perceive? And perception happens at a different level than habits and motion. And so when it comes to, for example, working with kids, you have to go into that 30,000 foot view and say, okay, what is it that I actually believe about chiropractic? What is it that I believe about success in practice? What is it that I believe, or what is the current cultural belief when it comes to XYZ? For example, getting results with kids. And then challenge yourself and ask yourself, is that actually true for me? Or rather, where did that belief stem from? A big thing I work with my clients on is oftentimes majority of the beliefs and the thoughts and the perceptions we have are not actually our own, but rather projected into us either from the cultural conditioning or from our parents or from experts in the field. And I'll challenge the audience right now, and even some of the people in our profession. I had a lot of people, Skip, tell me, oh, you can't be successful with network spinal care. You can't be successful as a cash office. You can't, da, da, da. You can't. And I challenge people to say, when you hear these beliefs and thoughts and perceptions, how does that land in your physiology, right? Because thoughts are vibrations, a perception is a vibration. And so if you're receiving these vibrations and energy in your own being, how do you think you're going to show up when you step into the energetic field of an infant on the table? Because we know rapport and the adjustment happens before you even touch that human being. So when you can shift this inner world, you have the ability to influence the central nervous system even before you touch that person physically. Because I know you believe this, Skip, that rapport and that field and your love and that energy out and that abundance will ripple into someone else who's maybe not at that vibration. Here's a little bit of network science. Coherence and entrainment, which is what we call the adjustment in network spinal care. And entrainment happens between two synergistic energetic bodies. Similar to when fish swim together, when birds fly together, we will entrain to the most coherent nervous system in the room. So I challenge the audience, how can you be more coherent in your beliefs and your perceptions and your thoughts, which then become your emotions, and then your emotions drive your behavior and your habits and your outcomes and your results.
Holy shit. That like that's exactly it. It's like, how can you be coherent yourself? So what I'm picking up on that is that you have to be the most coherent nervous system in the room. Therefore, your nervous system has to be almost perfect. It should have the communication. It should be freely flowing. Both thoughts, traumas, and toxins should be taking care of themselves, right? So you should be the most interference-free person in the room in order for you to be the most coherent. Therefore, drive the healing model, right? And yes, like you just literally said, which is awesome. You start the adjustment before you even put your hands on the patient. And you know as well as I do, whenever we're working with students or doctors and observing us, and they're like, why did you do that? Why did you do this? Why did you touch that segment? I don't freaking know. All that I know is that my nervous system is completely clear. I'm 100% in that moment with that patient, living that moment, living that joy, that my body's in coherence with theirs. Therefore, I can sense what's going on. That is the typical chiropractic way of going up to a patient, putting your hands on their C-spine and being like, I need to clear this segment, without doing extra leg checks and everything else that we need for objectifiers. But a lot of the times when it comes back to the straight mindset, and you know as well as I do, mental mindset's crap, adjustment's crap, patient responds like crap, healing's crap, they feel like crap. Yep. So there's a lot of crap to go around, right? Yep. So if we come back now to your mental mindset, Mel, let's go into a little bit of success and riches and bringing on what the universe gives us to be able to help with our communities. Where do you start bridging that gap now inside of this? Because with network, there'll be a lot of docs that they're just like, this makes no sense. What is the easiest way for you to bridge that gap with a chiro that says, you know what you do just doesn't make sense to me, doesn't work? How can you tie that into a financial aspect for them?
Yes. This goes a lot into what I actually share with my clients and my practice members on day 2, because I think the simpler you can make it, that helps create a bridge, right? And for the meta people out there, they're just going to download it. They're going to get it. They're going to be like, yes, this resonates. But for the thinkers and for maybe the analyticals, I always start with, Skip, is it easier to knock down a locked door, or is it easier to go through the open window, the open door that's available to you? And if we, as chiropractors, believe that the nervous system in our body is more than just a piece of meat, we know that the nervous system is always responding to the environment. And that goes beyond just this like 3-dimensional body, right? So when we're working with someone, for example, we want to say, hey, rather than me trying to force things in your body, I'm going to work with your system. And I'll share that analogy. I think analogies and metaphors are really powerful in like a financial conversation or even a sales conversation if you're a chiropractor. And it really can be that simple. You don't have to get super meta. So what I share with people is I say, look, if your body's intelligent, there can be some blockages in the way. And my goal is not to try to force things, because less is more in this approach. And I want to work with your body. And we can go into the neurology and all that, maybe another podcast. But if there's a nervous system under stress and subluxated, and you're trying to shift that and impact that body, why wouldn't you want to work with it? Right? Why wouldn't you want to support what's working? And so in that, you can look at that model and actually look at it in other systems of life, the educational system, the financial system, your business systems. Why not focus on what's working? Because people know and love to work with their strengths. So for someone who's sitting across the table and we're sharing maybe a plan of care, I'll say, my goal is to partner with you, to support you, to work with you. And they just get it, right? They get that there's blockages, and they get that there's stress, and they get that there's stuff going on in their life, but they're looking for someone to walk across the bridge with them and say, look, you also have a lot of things going on well, and we want to expand more of that in your life. And that's what I'm here to help you do in your nervous system, in your spine, which directly relates to your emotions, your relationships, your business, your, coworkers, your family life, right? And people just get it, because it's a universal concept, it's an energetic concept, but to really distill it down for people, I think we make it way more complicated than what we need to. And I'll, go off of what you said earlier, Skip, just really quickly. Network is an analysis, and people forget it's not necessarily a technique. So it can get very analytical, and it can really help bridge the gap for your own intuition as a chiropractor and say, hey, actually, my analysis is matching up with what I'm experiencing energetically in this person. That's pretty freaking cool.
Really cool. I think that's amazing. And it's 100% the truth. Just actively listening to what you're talking about here and understanding the process that you're talking about. Now, how do you match that energy level with children? Because kids, total different ball game. Kids are coming in at a max energy level all the time. Like we just heard Tim's story talk about, kids have shout in them. Yes. Life knocks the shout out of you, literally. Kids are full of shout, literally. They're full of shout. So how do you match that level of energy, Mel? Because this is something that I myself am not fully in tune with. Like I know how I do it, but I want to know how you do it. Mm-hmm. So how do you do it?
For me, I think the art looks different for everyone. When I step into the field, and what I mean by that is we know that our nervous system has fields, right? When people walk into a room and we don't see them, we can sense that there's something there. I don't think we need to get into that. When I step into their energetic field, I kind of let down my guard. I breathe into their field, and even just the ability to practice breath work, or the ability to sometimes it's hard to put these things into words because you just feel it, right? But I focus and I get super present, which is a practice of mind body awareness. I get super present and I really attune to their energetic field, and almost imagine like our systems are starting to sync up. I imagine like an infinity symbol. And a lot of this, by the way, if you do network care and you do some workshops, you get to learn some of these ways of interacting with a system on a table, which is super cool. So I recommend checking it out. But I get super present, I get super focused, and I imagine just their system starting to shed the layers, take off the armor. I take off my armor. I let go of, is someone running behind? Am I late? Did someone make their payment? Right? I get super present. And even in that moment of coherence in the field, you'll watch their system kind of relax. And then obviously with babies and kids, they're moving all over. So they're not going to lay on the table for you. So that's where you have to be super quick, super focused, super present, get your analysis, make your contacts, make your adjustments, and really dance with their system. And not try to force things, and not try to like, oh, but I learned this technique, especially for you students, like it's got to go this way. The more you can see the adjustment as a dance with their system and trust that their system is guiding you, that's where I see the most incredible results, because it comes back to less is more. And the more present you are with the system, the less force you actually need. So that's a little bit of like my artistry that I use and I've had to develop over the years, is just imagining those fields in training and like birds flocking together, right? I let down my armor and I just get super present, because those babies, for example, they're so close to source, right? They can sense that you're with them, even just heart to heart connection, your heart fields, all of that plays a role in your results and in your adjustment in and of itself.
I couldn't agree with you more. Like that's exactly it, is being in tune and having that coherence, that amazing. I look at it as like, again, like a wavelength, and your waves have to be together. They don't have to necessarily be on the exact same wavelength. I feel that a lot of docs will hamstring themselves with that, but they need to be running parallel with each other and moving through the same environment, because you should be running at a little bit higher energy level than they are in front of you. You should always be, if you look at like, if you're into surface EMG, we want to see balance, right? We want to see balance from side to side. We want to see homeostasis. And sometimes those lines don't perfectly line up, but they stay parallel, and you see them running in unison. That's exactly what this is about. And you're freeing up doorways. You're opening up doorways. You're stopping that friction, that friction that's stopping or maybe changing that wavelength, and allowing yourself to both on it. So Mel, do you feel, Dr. Mel, that you're kind of adjusting yourself every time you're seeing a patient?
I would say that I noticed energetic shifts in myself, especially with babies. I mean, how can you not just feel like, and to me, I know chiropractic philosophy may challenge this, but how can you argue that our systems are connected? Even you and I skip through space time through a silicone device, we're still in connection with each other, and we influence each other, which again, as you said, it's important that our nervous system is coherent so we can be influential to those who maybe come in and their scans are more dysfunctional or less coherent. There's always an exchange, in my opinion.
Well, it's the environment that they come into, right? It's that environment. Like you step into this office here is probably a way different environment than your office. We see 75% children. This place feels like a daycare at times. But the thing is that it's matching that frequency and then trying to balance it out. And I find it really amazing and cool to sit and talk to somebody as brilliant as yourself, number one, but number two, somebody that is brilliant in literally in a technique that I don't practice. But question for you then, to dovetail off of that, is do you feel that chiropractors in general inadvertently practice network and have no idea that they're doing it?
No one's ever asked me that. And yes, because I've had chiropractors say, well, I kind of, I love network, but I don't do it. I'm kind of known as the doctor's doctor in our area. So a lot of chiropractors will come see me, and then they'll receive entrainments. I'm like, I feel as though I'm just intuitively finding the open window, or I'm intuitively finding the gateway, as we call it in network. So that's a good question. And I would imagine there's probably more people out there tapping into these ways of working with someone than they even realize, which again, it's trusting your intuition, right? It's trusting your intuition as a chiropractor with a very specific analysis that will share with you, okay, am I on the right track, or do I need to shift a little bit?
I think inadvertently we all do it at some point. And that's why I wanted to ask you that question, because I think personally, whether we like it or not, we are using some form of it. And you are constantly moving energy. You are constantly looking at a patient and figuring out what's there and what's not. If not, you're a mechanistic bobo head, and you should probably be in physical therapy. And it's the truth. Working with the nervous system is totally different. Working with that energy, and especially when you have a newborn that's so connected to source, so fresh, so amazing. And the funny thing is, though, is that I find really hilarious is when people think that a baby's earth side, like they're out of their mom, that's when they first started living. And that's 100% not the case when we look at all the primitive reflexes, and we can go down that pediatric rabbit hole too. But Dr. Mel, this has been absolutely amazing, enlightening. Number one, where can doctors start if they want to start in the network? Where do you recommend? And then how do they get in contact with you, and how do they get to know who you are?
Absolutely. So if you're curious to learn more about a seminar, I would highly recommend going to a Discover Care experience and a Discover Care practicum, which is the basics of network spinal care. And you can go to epienergetics.com and you'll find all the different seminars. There's different levels of care, just like anything, you master your craft. And then as far as for working with me or starting off in practice or shifting your mindset and your energy, you can go to my website, drmelkrug.com. I do have a prep school course that if you're looking to open your practice, that would be something that would be really beneficial as far as getting your mindset right, getting your energy right, understanding money and clearing your money blocks, understanding systems, procedures, marketing, all of that. And you get that for life. So that's on my website, drmelkrug.com, and that's BDC Prep School. And in that, of course, it is for entrepreneurs, but it is specifically tailored to chiropractors coming right out of school. And as Skip and I have talked about, I talk a lot about the energetics and the mindset, not only in the nervous system, but your business system, right? Your family system, your life system.
If it's okay with you, I want to do another interview with you real soon. And I want to talk money, like money mindset. And we need to do that because I firmly believe that there's not enough successful chiropractors in the world, and there's not enough ultra successful chiropractors in the world to actually start making massive differences, right? Like we can change it on an energetic level. We can try to do it, but until we actually start taking that energetic level of our mindsets and putting it out there into the universe, but then actually getting off our ass and doing something, totally different situation, right? And this has been absolutely amazing. Dr. Mel, I think it goes without saying, I think that you're brilliant. I thought you've been brilliant since the day that I met you and watched you, and just it's awesome. And I can tell, and I can feel it. I mean, we are an entire state away. You're over Minneapolis. I'm in Green Bay. That's a 5-hour drive. And I can still feel it. And you're right. This is the energy. It's the flow. It's being in the universe. It's understanding us as a whole. And I absolutely think you're amazing. And every one of you listening, you need to look this lady up. She's phenomenal. You need to listen. You need to go out there. You need to get into her programs. One of the best female coaches I have ever met. And I know a lot of them, and I know a lot of really good ones. And she is right up there. So Dr. Mel, thank you so much for coming on. It means the world to me. Now, everybody, you know it. Go out there, get it done, be the best. Take care, everybody. Bye.